Hello friends. So today in this video we will see how to use Python data type and how to use this data type with a real world problem. So we'll just get started. First of all, for Windows user you need to go in your search bar and type IDLE. So from here you can launch that IDLE, and for Linux user you'll just simply open your terminal, type IDLE and launch that one. And those who don't know how to install Python, so you just check out my previous video where I explained how to install Python and how to write your first program, which is basically an hello world. So here you need to create a file. So this is our file and we'll just save that file. So I am saving it on my desktop. You can save it anywhere. So like data type file. Okay, now we can just zoom in little bit. Yes, perfect. So first data type which we are using is integer. So how to do that? You'll just declare one variable which is basically an a equal to, and store a value in it which is an integer value. So this is our integer data type where we will store a integer in it, any natural number 1 2 3 4 5 0, or you can just, okay, first of all I will show you how to print that thing. So and then we will discuss about the types. So first you need to print, suppose this is a and the type of data type it is. So just save that and run that by F5. Here you will see that 5 is an integer value and it is from class integer int basically. And lot of you will familiar with the C and C++ concept, and those who are not familiar with it, like there you need to write an int and long to describe what kind of value in it or how long is your integer will be. But here you don't need to do that. Here you can store this many values and still it will not affect. So this is the advantage of Python. So you can write any number of integers in that. So we'll run that. See, this is still an integer. This is not convert to any long or anything, and it is not any string as well. So the next data type we will see is b equal to 5. Suppose we are just converting that a only, or we'll just declare the b. So b equal to 5. Okay, so here this is also an integer, but we can convert that. Like, so if you take an example from here, suppose a is 58, right, and b equal to a, so we can convert the integer to float basically and decimal value. So here we will write float a, and we are just, I'm just copy pasting it. So b and b, correct. So here we will see that a is an integer type, whereas b is now convert to a is an float type. See here, it's 58 is an integer and 58.0 is class float. So these are two data types, where in one which is an integer and the other one is float. Similarly, the example of this is, suppose if you are sure about the data which you are receiving is an integer, you can use an integer data type. Or you are taking an input from your user, so you can define like that. Suppose I am getting an input from my user, I can define it like that: int input. Here I will tell my user that enter a number which is int. So we'll run that program. So now my user will know that it's asking me for an integer data type. If I'll give this thing, it will not accept, right? So this is how you take an input from a user which is an integer. Similarly, you can take it as a float as well. Suppose if you want a CGPA of a particular student of class 12th or 10th or 8th, whatever it is, so you can take as a float value which is basically at 8.5, 7.5 or 9.5. And if you want a student marks, you can define an integer data type. So these are the examples which you can familiar with your problems. So if you need a float data type, you can use a float, and if you want an integer data type, you can use int. So we'll see our third data type, which is basically a string. Suppose if you need to store that name of an user, so this is a string, empty string. Here I will write my name, or you can write anyone's name. Right? So now we'll just print that name, and we will in name we will just printing the name, and we will see the type of data type which it is, like that. Run that. So this is asking me for this value. I will give it 25. So here you will see that Rahul is a class string, a string kind of a data type, a string kind of data type which is basically we will use to get a string value. If it's a name, if it's a string or a particular command, you can store in this string. So this is basically a bunch of characters. So here we will learn how to use int, float, string. One more data type which we use is Boolean. For an example, suppose we will just change this thing. Suppose a equal to 58 and b is equal to 59, and here we will give, I'll close that window first, so otherwise we'll be really confused on that. So yeah, so a is equal to 58 and b equal to 59. Suppose c is equal to, if we can clearly see that b is greater than a, but suppose if I'll write like that, a is greater than b, what kind of data type this will be? So we will just print that. Type C, right? And we are just typing the value also. Okay, now run that. So this is a Boolean kind of data type in Python, where it will say that C is not, A is not greater than B, so it's basically false, a 0, and the data type which is Boolean. And if we will change that like this, we will get that it's true, a 1, and it's also an Boolean type. So these are the basic data types of Python which you can use in your program. This data type will basically use to compare the value, where you already know the outcome of a particular program or a particular scenario. So this 4 data types we will use, and the third data type which is not mostly we will use, but we will just see that thing. So I'll remove that. Suppose in A I am storing 5 plus 6j, which is basically represents a -1. So we are printing that A comma type of this A. So here we will get a complex data type. See, 5 plus 6j is in class complex. So these are all of data types which Python has, and we will use that according to our program. So I'm sure this will help you guys to understand that what we will need to use for our program and which data type will suit best to write. So if you like this video, so please subscribe to my channel, and if you have any doubts or any concepts or any issues are there, just mention in comments, so I will reply you guys. Thank you. We'll meet you in the next video.